Good morning. So if you pay attention to me today, if your frontal lobes work right, I'm going to teach you a lot about how your brain works. I'm going to teach you maybe more importantly how to optimize it, because when your brain works right, you work right, and when your brain doesn't work right, you have trouble. I'm going to talk about my book, Change Your Brain, Change Your Life, which I just found out today is going to be published in Saudi Arabia. That would be interesting to see. Middle Eastern brains, given I have a Middle Eastern background. But let's start in England. Shakespeare actually got it right in the 16th century when he said the brain is the soul's fragile dwelling place. Unfortunately for us, René Descartes in the 17th century got it wrong when he separated the mind from the brain. And even though Descartes was wrong, we act in our society today as if he was right, because we don't think about brain function. If somebody tries to kill themselves, we don't think about their brain. If somebody tries to kill somebody else, we don't think about their brain. If somebody is racked so full of anxiety that they can't go to work, we don't think about their brain. How silly is that? At the Amen Clinics, we have 3 of them now, one in Newport Beach, one in Northern California, and one in Tacoma, Washington. We operate off 8 very simple principles, and I want to share those with you because they will lay the foundation for the rest of my talk. And the first principle is very easy. Your brain's involved in everything you do. The brain is the organ of behavior. The brain is the organ of learning and loving and working and playing. Your brain's involved in everything you do, how you think, how you feel, how you act, how well you get along with other people. Even your interactions with God have to do with the moment-by-moment functioning of your brain. After looking at 17,000 scans over the last 12 years, I live and breathe this stuff. I've come to believe that your brain even determines the kind of person that you are, the kind of mother that you are. Are you the kind of mother that's consistent, that's loving, that's predictable, that's on time? Your brain works right. Or are you the kind of mother that is moody and irritable? Things don't go your way, you can't stand it, that you're unpredictable? Your brain doesn't work right, probably somewhere in your frontal lobes. I think even the kind of minister that you are you the kind of minister that's predictable, that's kind, that's loving, that can walk the kind of life you want to walk? Your brain works right. Are you the kind of minister like one recently in San Diego who molested a 9-year-old boy? When we looked at his brain, it was horrible. We think he had some form of toxic exposure from general anesthesia. Most people think, oh, I'll go and have general anesthesia, it's probably no big deal. Well, after looking at brains before and after general anesthesia, it makes me nervous. Because some people, certainly not all people, but some people have a toxic negative reaction to it. So your brain's involved in everything you do. That's the first principle. The second principle is also very simple. When your brain works right, you work right. And when your brain doesn't work right, it is really hard for you to be your best self. The image to your left is a SPECT scan. They're both SPECT scans. They look at blood flow and activity patterns in the brain. How does the brain work? The image on the left is a healthy brain. The image on the right is someone who used heroin for 20 years. And what you see with drug abuse, especially with opiate drug abuse like heroin and methadone and Vicodin and many other painkillers, is overall severe decreased activity in the brain. So do you think the heroin addict has really any possibility of being that person they really are inside? No. Why? Because he doesn't have full access to the organ that makes him who he is. And if you doubt that, think of Alzheimer's disease. I'll show you a picture of Alzheimer's disease in a minute. Anybody know somebody who has Alzheimer's disease? Are they their full selves? Are they that person they really are inside? No. Why? Because they have brain deterioration. It's a degenerative neurological disorder. The brain literally is coming apart. if you will. The third principle is the brain is the most complex organ in the universe. There is nothing as complicated as the human brain. Nothing. It's estimated we have 100 billion nerve cells. I can't even imagine that number, but it's a lot. And each nerve cell is surrounded by other supportive cells, trillions of something called glial cells. In addition, each nerve cell is connected to other nerve cells by an estimated 20,000 individual connections. It's like, wow. Do the math. That means you have more connections in your brain than there are stars in the universe. Your brain is also the major energy user in your body. Your brain, even though it is only 2 to 3% of your body's weight, uses 20 to 30% of the calories that you consume. Your brain uses more calories than any other organ by far. When we do whole body scans on people, the brain is like this little heater and everything around it is sort of like a ghost. So do you ever wonder why people gain weight as they age? It's because you stop using your brain. The brains of little kids are very, very active. You know, we're pushing them. Go to school. Do your homework. And they are really curious about the world that they're exploring. And as we get older, our brains naturally become less active. And if you don't learn, if you don't continue to learn, being here today, you've made it part of your mission in life to be a lifelong learner. It's one of the things we know that helps to prevent Alzheimer's disease, is continued lifelong learning. But if you want to lose 10 pounds, learn something new. Keep your brain active. The fourth principle is your brain is very complicated and very soft. Most people don't understand this concept. Your brain is about the consistency of soft butter. Some people think of it really as soft as a raw egg. Anybody see the movie Hannibal? And at the end of the movie, he takes off the top of the guy's skull while he's still living. And you see the brain wiggling just like this, sort of like it's a big bag of worms. And that's how it really looks in life. It is very, very soft. And it's housed in a really hard skull. And the skull has ridges in it. Your brain was not meant to hit soccer balls with your head. Your brain was not meant to play tackle football, where you put this precious organ that makes you who you are inside a helmet and then slam it up against people that are bigger than you are. Your brain was not meant to ride motorcycles without a helmet. Your brain was not meant to snowboard without a helmet. And when you think about the concepts I'm laying out for you, your brain's involved in everything you do. When it works right, you work right. It's complicated and soft. Why in God's name would you ever let a child hit a soccer ball with their head? How stupid is that? Because mild traumatic brain injuries can change people's whole lives. And nobody knows. Why? Because by and large we don't look. The next principle we work on is that problems in specific brain areas tend to cause specific problems with behavior. That certain parts of your brain tend to do certain things. And if you can understand that, you can then begin, through imaging, to predict who's going to have a problem with this area, who's going to have a problem with that area. The next thing is that psychiatric illnesses are not single or simple disorders. We talk about them as if they are. We talk about ADD as if it's one thing. Or we talk about anxiety and depression as if they are one thing. And they're not. When you look at brain scans, what you realize is they're multiple subtypes for each of these different disorders. And if you don't understand the subtype, you tend to make a lot of people worse. So for example, with attention deficit disorder, why does Ritalin have such a bad reputation? Right? I mean, it's controversial. Put your child on Ritalin. And some people will go, well, that's probably a good idea. And other people will go, oh, no, you should never do that. Well, the reason it's controversial is because for some people, Ritalin is a miracle. It takes their behavior from being hyperactive, restless, impulsive, they can't concentrate,